All right, so question of the day of this video, pretty much, if you haven't been able to tell by the thumbnail and the title, is Last of Us Remake worth $70? Now, I think we can all agree here that the value of something is basically only determined by how much you're willing to pay for it. I mean, that's really how things are. Like, doesn't matter if you're, selling a video game for collection or a Pokemon card or whatever. The value that the game or whatever has is based solely off of what somebody is willing to pay. I think that is something that we can all just agree on. Now, when it comes to something like Last of Us Remake, there's things that really bother me with this. Okay, I don't get me wrong. And this is kind of the do as I say, not as I do type of situation. I mean, as a content creator, I'm going to end up buying Last of Us Remake. The thing is, we break it down here. All right, before we come to a conclusion, let's break this down for a minute. Last of Us Remake, in my opinion, is not a remake. This is a remaster of a remaster. Okay, a remake usually entails a ground up remake of everything. They're not reusing assets. They're not doing anything they're not taking anything from the prior game. Okay, it's a ground up remake. Perfect example of remakes, okay, would be Resident Evil 2 remake, the Demon Souls remake, Shadow of Colossus remake, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake. These are all remakes that have been built from the ground up. They do not use prior assets at all. There is nothing that's in these games that I just listed that have anything to do as far as using prior textures, character models, voice acting, nothing from the prior games. Why do I make this distinction? Well, I make this distinction because in Last of Us Remake, they are reusing everything. Everything is being reused from the prior games. It's not a ground up like they were saying initially, like it would be a ground up remake. It's not a ground up remake. What they're doing is they're taking AI technology that they have that's evolved over the years to be able to upscale the graphics or the models in the background and be able to replace the character models with the character models that they have in Last of Us Part 2 to be able to match the character models and to quote unquote match the motion capture better. Everything in the game is going to be reused. They're reusing voice acting, they're reusing motion capture, they're reusing music, they're reusing the story. Everything is identical. And the reason why this bothers me is because you're charging $70 for this. Okay, you're charging $70, calling it a remake. It's not a remake. It's a remaster of a remaster. It's an HD remaster, if you want to put it that way. Like, basically, you could play this game on the PS4, right? Like, this is something that's being released. They're charging $70, which is a PS5 price, and they're calling it a remake, but it's not. So, like, the character models or the character models that they're using and the updated backgrounds and images and all that stuff that they're using is basically things that you saw in Last of Us Part 2. So clearly the PS4 can handle this game, right? There's nothing in this game that warrants it being solely on a PS5 and being charged $70 for this. So with all of that said, why? What is going on here that we as consumers, we're saying this is okay? Right? Like, this is even a problem when it comes to remasters too. Not every company does this, but when a game gets remastered and it releases at full price, why aren't we as consumers making a big deal about this? We really should be. We really should be. Like, don't get me wrong, Nintendo's gonna Nintendo, but at the end of the day, a remaster is a remaster. So Skyward Sword HD Remaster is still Skyward Sword, just now playable on the Switch, right? Like with higher textured resolutions, and they did adjust the controls to fit the Switch and make it playable without the motion controls. So that's not something that you really should be charging full price game for, because it's a game that's an old game. It's the same game. There's nothing really different about it, and so because of that, you're charging $60 for Skyward Sword HD remaster, when really it's a $40 game. Let's be honest, it's a $40 game. Where Zelda Link's Awakening is a ground up remake, and it's essentially a different game, even though it's the same story and basically almost the same points. Like if you played the original Link's Awakening, you're very, very familiar with everything that's going on in Link's Awakening remake. So, but even so, because it's a ground up remake, they do not reuse any of the textures. Nothing from the original is carried over. It's a ground up remake. Charging full price for that game, it's fine because it's pretty much a brand new game. It's different. Where this game, Last of Us Remake, again, it's not a remake, it's a remastered, but this game it shouldn't be $70. By no means should it be $70. Okay? And again, this is all my opinion. If you disagree with me, that's okay too, but I feel like this is a common practice now, and companies are just milking us for everything that we have, and we're saying, okay, that's fine. Just, use a little bit of lube for us, and we're okay with that. This really, honestly, should not be okay. It really shouldn't. We as consumers should start putting our foot down for things like this. And, $70 price point, this game, $40 would be okay. I'd be okay with a $40 price point for this game. It's still a game that I love. It's still a story that I fell in love with. And it's one of the games that I will always love and always hold at a very high regard, because it changed the way that games are told to us from a storytelling standpoint, and because of that, and because of the way that the game was just, it had such a big impact, I'm okay with a $40 price point. But $70, that's a bit much. Come on, let's be realistic here. You're giving us pre-chewed food and saying it's the same thing when it's not. You can play this game on your PS3, you can play this game on your PS4, and you can play it for free on your PS4 if you have PlayStation Plus. Granted, you're paying a monthly fee, but still, it's included in PlayStation Plus. It's the same game, 60 FPS, and it still looks good. They added the combat for Last of Us Part 2 into Part 1, or into the remake, but that doesn't warrant a $70 price point. If it was legitimately a real remake, ground up, new motion capture, new voice acting, you brought the voice actors back to redo dialogue scenes, maybe a couple dialogue scenes that didn't really hold up well, or you wanted to change the dialogue because it fits better with the narrative going into Last of Us Part 2, fine. But honestly, none of that is there. And here's the biggest thing. I feel like the only reason why they're doing this is so that way they can put Abby's dad into this game. Let's be real here, because at the end of the first Last of Us, it's just some random black doctor. That's what he is. It's just some random black doctor. And then in Last of Us Part 2, they retconned that and made it Abby's dad. So I feel like that's the only reason why they're doing this, just to put Abby's dad in there. That's it. I don't feel there's any other reason. You're paying $70 for Abby's dad to be put in the game, so that way it can fit better with with Last of Us Part 2. That's all. It's not like they're adding Abby into the game and having you play as her a little bit before towards the end of the game, when that happened. It's not like they're giving us the story with Joel and Tess, giving us some prelude to it. They're not doing anything like that, or Tommy and Marlene. Nothing. They're not doing. It's the same exact game, just it looks prettier. That's it. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. I'm sorry, this was a bit of a rant, but it kind of had to be, because it really upsets me. It really does. I don't think companies should be allowed to do this. I don't think it's okay at all. But what do I know? I'm just some guy on the internet, and yeah, I guess hit the like button, subscribe for more, and let me know your comments on it, your thoughts and opinions. Let's have a discussion, because I like discussions. With that, I'll see you guys next time.